Good morning, traders. Welcome to the Bookmap All Markets Live webinar here. This is Bruce at Bookmap. I'll be your host. Good morning. And we'll go through live order flow analysis here in any of the markets that you like. Just request it and we can take a look at it. Most people want to look at the S&P, so that's what we go through. Let's see. Shadow. Okay, you're answering a question, it looks like. Yeah, we don't, we can look at currency futures if you like, but we don't have spot Forex. It's also a rollover period, guys, so we got some kind of weird things to look at here within Bookmap and the heat map. We'll talk more about that. All right, so let's cover the, well, we have this webinar every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. And we'll go through, like I said, all markets here. I'm the Bookmap lead educator here. We have a host of other educators and traders and streamers all on our Discord channel as well as our YouTube channel. Just go to our YouTube channel and you'll see here. Next up is Tom B, then Doug later today with options. Tom B's volume profile S&P trader. And earlier today we had Rain as well as for crypto markets, and we also had Charles with the stock index futures going through volume profile. If you're interested in all the different things that we offer, this is the place to go. Go to bookmap.com, click on the More button here, go to our Learning Center here, and then you'll see the, just scroll down a little bit here. This is our calendar, and you can look at each day and see all the different events that we have here. Okay, so you know, Tuesday we will have John Slazas in the afternoon, options with Doug, and the Algo Boys actually they'll be later today as well, every day, every weekday here, right? So they are only in our Discord channel, so you'd have to go over there to our Discord channel to view that stream. Good morning, Kenji. All right, let's jump in here, and you can reach out to me on Bookmap Discord, as well as my Twitter handle here, Flow Order. General disclosure, all Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right, so let's jump in here. We'll take a look at the bigger picture, I think. Just again, a note on the rollover period. All right, well, this is what rollover looks like. It's actually getting a lot better here, but here's previously. Okay, so you see some high liquidity in here, but you also see these players here about 1.5 or 2 points away from current price action. This kind of halo effect around the price action. We see that all the time actually, but when the markets are thinner, they really stand out a lot more. And then when they roll over to another contract here, you'll see that that will kind of get lost in the liquidity of a whole lot of other traders in here. So a quick way to understand your rollover, let me just show you that from the Learning Center here. Okay, so just scroll up or in the Learning Center here, bookmap.com/learning -center, click on the Getting Started course here, adding symbols. Okay, we have a video in here about how to add futures and stock symbol. We also have the guide here that goes over our guide and the month, the year, understanding the future symbols, but also understanding the rollover period in here. And what we do, or what I do usually, is I just go in here and look up the contract specs for the S&P. Just go to do a quick Google search for the ES CME volume, and then that'll pop it up here, right? So let me in fact let me show you that. because there's a lot of confusion about this for those that don't trade futures or are new to it, and you should know the contract specs. It's important. So let's go there, and then you can see this is the new symbol here, ESU3. It has rolled over. Now, we want to understand the details, though, of the contract specs. So click on volume and open interest. And we showed this on Friday, how the open interest over here, see it here, had kind of shifted and changed. But now look at how dramatic it is. Okay, there are negative 347,000 open interest positions. They're out of the market, and look at how they've added in here. 460,000 have added to the September contract. Now let's look at the volume here. Okay, we can look at Globex and also the overall volume. The total volume here, we still see there is more being traded in the June contract. This is very close, though. You'll note here, and it'll probably happen during this webinar, and we'll see the heat map change. You'll note it, which is pretty amazing to see, the kind of transparency that we're talking about here in Bookmap. And yeah, we'll see the difference here. All right, so look for it soon. But that's how to understand which contract is offering the more liquidity, and which one you should be trading. All right. Okay, and as noted previously, rollover can be tricky. The reason being is the behavior of the participants in here are doing something different than necessarily looking for speculating on the price movement. Okay, there's also a lot of, well, we're rolling out of one contract into another. All right, so you'll see also a lot of pairs trading and hedging, back and forth. So the behavior is a little different. I know a lot of traders don't like to trade during this period. Okay, we'll go through the order flow anyway. In fact, I can see this little breakout here, probably up to this 57 here. Let's see if we can get it here. And I also want to cover some CVD in here. McLoco, we covered CVD a lot last session on Friday, and why we look for something like this 57, 58 area to trade right now. And we'll talk about this little movement in here. Then we're going to take a look at the bigger picture. All right, so let me cover this in here about CVD, so that there's some clarity around this. CVD is a very simple indicator here in the subchart. All it is the aggressors added together here. The number of okay, the aggressors here are the green dots. These are market buy orders. So when you see a bigger green dot, you know that there's more market buy orders here. Red dot is market sell. Okay, and that's it. Now the CVD will record both together. It just mashes them together, adds them together. Obviously, if it's a negative number, it adds it, so it's actually subtracting from it. All right, so there's our move into 58 already. Okay? That's all we're looking for now. Just 58. Okay, now let's talk about why. God, if McLoco is in here, it'd be great. Let's see. Well, anyway, we may have to go over it another time with him as well. But I want to go through each leg and each move in here, and you're going to get a deeper understanding of cumulative volume delta and this indicator, and then start to read it in a much better, kind of higher resolution. Basically, you're going to understand a lot more about it. So here's why, right? So CVD is going down here. We go back and forth, and CVD is also going down here. Okay. However, there's divergence here. The divergence is CVD is going down, but price isn't. Okay. So what's going on in here? Well, it's either the maybe the selling dried up right here at this point, and there's no more sellers, and then buyers came in, or maybe they're absorbed by an iceberg, or maybe they're absorbed by just high liquidity in here. There's multiple things that can happen. Now I don't see much in the order book in here at all that's transacting in here. Maybe there's a little bit in here, but it's not a whole lot. So I'm imagining they just stopped selling at this area here, and and buyers just came in and took it up to the top of the range. But there might be an iceberg, so let's add the icebergs in here, and the iceberg would be really important to understand. Okay, here's the on chart icebergs, and let's take a look here. Not use a filter for the icebergs. Okay, no, and there's really not a whole lot of icebergs in here either. All right. Now there's also a bigger picture move that we'll take a look at. There's a gap fill in here, I believe. But anyway, so what is the CVD telling us here? Well, there's a divergence here. It just means that there are more sellers from here to here. Okay, so from here to here, we have more sellers than we do buyers. Now, a few different ways to look at this and kind of understand this rectangle and the data in it is to we'll use this tool here, zoom by drag, okay, and we'll just left click, hold, and drag over here and then release, and you can see now this data here is all within our window. All right, now we can look at maybe some better studies in here and start to understand like the order book and volume and balance here. Well, we can see that there's more selling in here. There's no question about it. It's -8%. So that's what's happened in here. All right, we can look at our columns as well. We can split out the data in our columns and start to look at some of these details in here. So there's more selling down here, actually. This is a kind of a point of control. Most traded volume level here at 43.53. Okay, so and that's just fact. All right, so there's more selling down here, and yet price went back up. All right, so we're starting to understand these legs a little bit better. If we can continue to look at it in here and look at a very specific leg. We're still in the zoom by drag tool, and we can look at this leg in here and start to understand volume pressure in here. You can use Control Z to go back and then look at maybe this leg up in here, right? And start to compare here your volume. All right, so for example, look at your CVP column in here and look at the buyers in here. Okay, now what I'm getting at is this. Let's just use Control Z. We'll go back. And then we can look at this leg in here. See how we can use this zoom by drag tool here, which is really nice, by the way. You can actually outline a little rectangle around it now, only because I'm in the recenter none mode right now. If I go into recenter best bid and offer, you'll note that now it's just the recentering will happen here, but it's within best bid and offer. So you don't have that option with the rectangle. You have just two zones in here, one zone that you're going to outline. All right, and then just hit Control Z to go back. All right, so what I'm trying to get at here is this, and this is something that you might want to go and check out with Gene over on the Algo Boys webinar. Right, because this is something I know he looks at, and what we're talking about here is your kind of ABC patterns and volume within your patterns. Okay, and that's something to understand and comprehend. Any reversal that takes place is likely going to you're going to see this flow and this shift and this change. Okay, so for example, if we look at this out of this tool, to get out of this tool, you got to click back on it, and then we'll use the drawing tools here. and then we'll look at a line, and I'll just draw this line here. Okay, so this is one leg here, right? Now the next leg really kind of came up to here, and the next leg after that kind of came down to here. We want to understand the volume within these areas in here. This directly relates to your CVD. There was also questions last week about the M's and W patterns, etc., and starting to understand that. Well, this is getting into it, and this is why these M's and W's work, double bottoms, double tops, is to start to understand the shift and the flow here in the order flow, and not just the order book, which we have off right now, because we're not getting too much out of that during this rollover period. However, we're getting this difference in the cumulative volume delta, and we're seeing it in here. Okay, there's that divergence that we just talked about, and here's more too. Well, it kind of came down and made an equal one here, but it went a little lower here, right? So we want to understand the volume on this move and this leg here. Okay? And you can look at kind of the overall delta. Okay? How many traded down here? And we know there's more sellers here. You can just look at it right here. Not only do you see it in the dots, but you see it here in the volume delta bars down here. Okay, now the move back up, look at how paltry that is. Okay, this is pretty anemic, pretty weak move back up by the buyers. Again, heavy selling here. Okay, you can see it here in the delta bars. However, and there's a divergence. However, buyers came back in and moved it back up here. Okay, and then we have the next swing in the move here. We understand the swing down to here, and the seller should be able to take this lower at this point, right? That's what you would assume. Now let's look at the delta bars in here. Actually, there's not a whole lot of buying in here. We're looking for that shift and that change in here. A lot of times with your CVD, where you get a real big divergence is here on this leg, and we're not really getting much of a divergence here. And the reason that we would get that divergence would be there would be big green dots up in here, up in this area on this retracement, right? But they failed to take it higher, right? Then you will see a big difference here in the CVD, right? But what we're understanding is the back and forth in here, and we're looking for this kind of shift in this change. That's what you, in a lot of cases, like I had mentioned before, I don't really look at CVD very much. I try to understand the shift and the change in here by looking at where the volume is transacting with this back and forth range in here. And I look for some sort of imbalance or some sort of edge in here. And then we can see that the buyers did come back in here, and then the volume here on the delta bar starts to shift and change. See how we had just a little bit here? See how we have a lot more here? Okay, so you can look for maybe a move back up to where it dropped from here, maybe. Okay, maybe even here. What about maybe it can even get back up to the top of this range up in here, right? It didn't, but if there was enough buyers, it would have. All right, so again, understanding this range bound activity in here by understanding the delta, and you can compare that delta with cumulative volume delta, and this is something worthy to study and look at. If look for an edge in there. This is exactly what this tool is used for, cumulative volume delta, but we're talking about details now by looking at Bookmap. All right, and you can see that well, everything kind of just went back and forth in here now so far. Okay, now we have a little bit of delta divergence in here. Okay, more buyers coming in. All right, so they should be able to reach up to here, right, to the swing. Maybe they can break it now and come up to here. So we're looking for the move back. We were looking earlier for that move back. Due to the delta in here, we're looking for that move to 58. And we went back and forth in here, and we're only looking for that move to 58, right? And now we're looking for it again here, potentially. Okay, looking for it in here. The buyers were coming in, and we see a retracement back down here on low volume. All right, so let's take a look at this and start to study it here. So a couple of different scenarios to take a look at. Are they going to, is this a retracement here? And we're going to find buyers off of this? Well, we're getting our answer immediately here. No. But let's see, we still might get buyers up here at 56. If we do, like big green dots up here, then yeah, we would look for this not only back up to the swing here, but 58 and maybe 60. Okay, look at the shift here in the volume as well. All right, now we have, there's going to be a divergence here as well. Pretty strong buying in here. They failed to make a higher high. Okay, not, or even an equal high here. Okay, so although we see that buying and that shift in here, we're not seeing the price move yet, at least. Okay, so then maybe we need to do another rotation. Maybe sellers take control here at 55, and we'll trade it back down to, we haven't even traded down to the figure yet. Okay, so maybe we trade down to the figure here of 43.50. Right, so understanding the different scenarios in here. All right, let me get to some questions in here over in YouTube. Morning, Bill. Aloha, Tony. Good morning, Shadow. Abby. Yeah, please. Yeah, hit the like button. Love hearing that. Doesn't cost you anything and helps us gauge. If you like this kind of content, if this creates value for you, please hit that like button. Morning, Deborah. All right. So again, okay, so now we have another divergence here. Here's a higher high in CVD. It's a little bit higher. I'm sorry, higher low, and in CVD also a higher high here, CVD, but it failed to go higher. So I'm still looking for these buyers to try to reach back up here to 57 and then maybe break out. I can see there's more buying in here, right? And we made a higher low here and we made a higher low here in CVD. But it all depends on right here, especially right here. This is kind of a point of control. I'm looking for those big green dots right up here at 55.5. Okay, if we get them, we should see enough volume, or the scenario is this. Just objectively looking at it, we should get enough buyers in here to reach back up to here. And that's all. I'm just trying to keep it really simple. That there is buying up in here. We see it in here in the delta dots as well, or delta bars, I'm sorry. So there should be enough buying interest to reach back up here. Okay, and if there's even more up here, then, well, it makes sense that maybe if they really pick up and step up the buying, okay, like over in here, right? If we see this kind of buying over here, then why can't we, it makes sense that we can come up to 59 or 60. Okay, so that's the scenario here. Now we're up here already at the top of this little range, and I don't see those big green dots right now. In fact, I see the opposite, right? So there, if I were in, now we can talk a little bit about risk management for something like this. If I were in that trade, I was looking for right around in here, those green dots, and for them to pull it higher. They did. I would be taking some off up here. Say, especially after this red dot here, I would be taking it off. Okay, I would just kind of, lock my profits. At least one leg of it, okay, because there's another scenario in here that might happen, is we might get this huge selling, but we can rotate back up and still find those buyers, and then they'll move it. In this case, they didn't, right? So yeah, if you're looking for something like this, for a consideration in your risk management, is just take some off of the top of the range. Not only some, if you're trading just one lot, or if you like having just all in, all out, then that's something of higher probability that you're looking for. Okay, based off of what you would have to do the studying, but like based off of what we just covered here, in this range and this back and forth in here and what we're looking for. All right. Do I look at market profile TPOs and footprint charts? I used to, Kenji. I like them. You know, we've got the volume profiles here in Bookmap. You know, and you can filter for them. We got the session range and the chart range in here, and you can do all sorts of resets and filters in here. So you can do quite a bit here in Bookmap. Again, where to go and find that information is the knowledge. I'm sorry, the Learning Center. You can go here, the More button, the Learning Center, and then under this Getting Started course here, you'll see all these columns in here. Okay, so there's I don't know, a dozen videos or so talking about all the different columns. Okay, resetting, etc. Okay, here's a volume column, here's volume delta, and then also resetting is right here. Okay. All right, so yeah, the TPOs, and I really like kind of the concept a lot of the volume profile and just kind of turning things sideways and looking at where the majority of traders are trading and transacting. I just don't like the aggregation of it, that this is now aggregation over time. Okay, so there could be massive transactions over here that are rather meaningless here now. Okay, because you're just looking for this move, you're looking for the aggressor here. But you know what you can do is you can just zoom in and look at your smaller profile here. Okay, so and you can filter for them in here, like I said, many different ways with resets, with the SVP column, and you can also use this delta column here. Right, so this is buy minus sell, which is really interesting idea here. I really like it a lot because here you can start to understand like the delta here in terms of the horizontal. So you'll see these zones. Look at all this selling down here, right? Now that could be the fuel to the fire and the stop runs to the upside here. Okay, where buyers may take control back up here, right? So it looks like a good scenario here. If we can get these buyers, here they come. All right, so this is kind of the dot we're looking for here. So let's see them continue here. I want to see more buyers come in. Now I want to see them break this range and see if they can come up to our 60 level maybe. I like the swing here, 59 first, but looking at the kind of recent highs up here at 60. And now, did we get them? No, not yet. Really back and forth in here, guys. Really choppy. So I'm looking for them, but they didn't show up. And now we talked a little bit about trader psychology on something like this as well. And Deborah, I think this will also be helpful for you. We're looking for that potential breakout here. You know, are you getting into a position in here? Well, if you can find your edge and you know that you have that edge in here, like from studying this information, then yeah, you would be getting in here. Okay, I like to get into these kinds of areas in here too and look for the follow through. This one didn't work, right? So I would get stopped out really rather quickly here. Maybe take a point loss on it, and that's it. Move on. Right. So yeah, and again, like I don't know how much I'm anticipating this during the rollover period here. We've seen these moves take place, and there's no icebergs here, nor is there high liquidity in here. So it's just, it kind of rotates here, and we just don't find buyers or sellers at the bottom edge, or we don't find buyers at the top edge. Okay, we see these kinds of moves in the delta, moving it back up to the tops of these ranges, though. Okay, so that kind of goes back to Deborah, your you know, looking at the ranges in here, really. Okay, so if we really want to understand the ranges, sorry. Okay, and then around these ranges in here. Okay, so like look at this one here. Okay, this looks like probably a stop run. Okay, sellers come in, but I'm being very, very careful here because I can get buyers back up here. Okay, and then think about all of these sellers that are trapped in here at that point. Okay, in a cluster here. Okay, and then if they are, where is it going to go? Well, the first move I would look for is probably here, and the second one would be probably here. Okay, so from 53.5 or 3/4 on up to 55.5, and maybe up to 58. Okay, so it broke the range, but it's back in the range now. Okay, more sellers are coming in at the bottom of this little swing that was just created here. Okay, testing low a day. And we haven't even looked at the bigger picture yet, so let's do that. So actually, it looks like sellers might take this down now, and test the figure. Our cumulative volume delta totally shifted and changed right here, guys. Okay, so again, this right in here, this activity right in here changed really everything. Pretty dramatically, in fact. Everything we're looking at in here looked very different, right? This is one of the reasons I don't really like that cumulative volume delta. I like to know this and who took control. All right, so here come the buyers trying to stuff it right back at the sellers. Again, it could be a lot of trap volume here on that sell side. And look at your delta column here, okay, of CVP, which is chart range volume profile. This makes really good sense here. See all this volume here? So the what if scenario is get the buyers back up here, back to 54 basically. Kind of looking at it earlier right in here, the 53.5, but we're looking for basically 54 now. And if we can get that, it should be a really nice squeeze to the upside. Right? So anyway, that's one of the scenarios here. Or maybe the squeeze is going to happen when we get down here, and it's these buyers that are going to get squeezed right in this little rectangle here between 52.25 and 53.75. So then in that scenario, we're looking for our sellers here and that move back below the figure here. Okay, maybe down to about 48 or so. And we're gonna see which one's gonna win the battle here. We're gonna look for that behavior, and then you know, look for these tests up into these areas here, down in these areas here. All right, Salim, welcome. You're new. Yeah, the heat map. Maybe go over to stops. I'm sorry, to stocks and look at the. Thanks, Bill. Hit the like button once more. No, you can only hit it once, but appreciate that. Can I explain, Salim? I'll get to your question in just a minute. Can you explain the strength level opponents? Okay, so the strength level is actually kind of looking for hidden orders. It used to be our old iceberg indicator, but like there are some issues with it. Okay, before the MBO data came out, then it was really fantastic to kind of understand, like, wow, okay, these are potential icebergs, but there was just false positives on that, and that's when it was hard to kind of decipher, and it really depended on, to be honest, what made a big difference was the data provider, the timestamps. Sometimes the aggressor would come after the the order trading into that liquidity, or vice versa, and so we'd get like some wonky type of stuff, and then it kind of watered down that strength indicator. Let me show it to you though, and we'll take the stops and icebergs off the chart here for a minute and look at the strength indicator. So it's very simple indicator. Oh, it's not here, it's under here. That's right. Yeah, here it is, strength level. Okay, so you can see these numbers in here, right? So all it's saying here is like 245 is that what was provided in the order book and what traded actually. If we zoom in, you'll see it's broken into its pieces here. But basically, there are more buyers in here in the passive buyers in here that transacted compared to like 1 more, 4 more, 3 more here that transacted in here, okay, than what was in the order book. So if it's not in the order book but it transacted, then it must be a hidden order, it must be an iceberg, right? That's what this is showing here. Like I said, the problem was a lot with the data providers and the false positives, but you can also compare it. Let's look at the MBO data here and look at icebergs. So I don't see any icebergs in there, the MBO data. Okay, but there's other times when you will see it, and it will match up, like this 42 right here. Well, yeah, now this correctly identified an iceberg in here, no question. All right, so that's what it is. So it's kind of it can show you that liquidity that was that traded that was not in the look at our scenario in here. It looks just horrible. We're looking for one side or the other. Looks like buyers are trying to take control here. I don't have a lot of faith in it, but yeah, looking for them up here, and then our 54 level. That's what we're kind of looking for earlier, but we're not getting any follow through here. If we do get them, they should be able to move it back up to, like we said, here at 55.5, and then 58 level. And this is rollover period, so we'll just just kind of sit back and watch, I think, today a bit. Yeah, it is choppy. Doubt about that. And let's see here, other questions. Salim, you're new to Bookmap and heat map. Yeah, okay, so let's look at a stock. In fact, we see what's happening during this rollover period is, like, see this liquidity here on the bid, and then over here on the offer. This is algorithmic activity, and you can see that is even the same algo. See how they're kind of pulling and then adding up here, okay? Pulled here, added here, pulled here, added here. They did it also on the offer. So it's, pretty sure this is the same algo, and it's a larger player that is providing that, or that is, yeah, providing that liquidity in here, right? So yeah, we can really identify it in here, but let's look over at maybe Tesla. All right, so the heat map and how this can help you, and look how wildly different this is here. Okay, we've been looking at Tesla lately, and it's been just amazing, and gaps up, etc. Anyway, what we see here is high liquidity here, right here at the open. Okay, 9:30 cash open. Look at high liquidity up here at 250, at 249.50, at 249. And note that transacted. Okay, 250 did not. Okay, there's 279,000 shares up here at 250, and it has not transacted yet. All right, so and then down here on the bid, well, you can see high liquidity that came in a little after the open, but it transacted here at 246. And then down here at 245, this transacted. You can see the red dots, which are the aggressors, the market sell orders, right into these passive limit buy orders, and the transaction took place. Okay, so this is what the heat map is showing you. It's all derived from the order book. Okay, your COB column here stands for current order book, or it's your level 2 in stocks. And what you see here in the order book at these price levels is liquidity. These are shares here at these specific price levels in the green on the bid. And they want to be buyers. On the offer, they're up here, and this is where they want to be sellers. This is simple as that. What we do in Bookmap is we take that liquidity and paint it into a heat map. You see the heat map here, red and orange, very high liquidity. Maybe we can make it bright here for now. This is just a dimmer. And then yellow, white, blue, and the black is lesser liquidity. And we record it. You'll see how it changes in here. We zoom in here. You'll see like they'll add and pull liquidity all the time in here. And you'll see the heat map change here with the best bid and offer. See how they're adding a bit more here at 46.5, right? So, and what's the reaction? We get buyers? Okay, that's interesting. So if we get enough buyers in here, maybe they'll come up and trade with these sellers up here at 47. Okay, so it's this relationship between the buyers and sellers that we're understanding. What we do when the liquidity changes in here, we just record it and plot it on the chart. Okay, so here come our buyers, right? So here comes our move to 47. Now, did they trade into 47? Yeah, they did, and some. Okay, so here's where the transactions took place, right here. We zoom right in there. And here are the transactions right into that high liquidity. Okay, and that's the difference here is we're recording it and plotting it on the chart. Now, note that they're not really in here anymore. Okay, they're starting to come in a little bit, but now they're on the bid coming in. They were on the offer coming. So the liquidity heat map, it just records it and plots it on the chart historically. That's all you're looking at here. Okay, so this is a really nice move here in Tesla. Okay, so we just saw this kind of reaction with this liquidity down here at 56 and thought, well, wait a minute, you know, there's liquidity here, buyers, and they're not interested. We start to see some buying coming in here. Well, then maybe they'll tangle with and take on these sellers here. Okay, they did, and there's still more buying pressure. So you look for the next level of liquidity and the next after that. Okay, pretty simple stuff. It's just an auction. We're understanding that auction on the higher time frame as well as the current time frame. Let's see the scenario on the upside in the COB with larger liquidity at 54 and 55 must get past that also. Yeah, let's take a look. It's probably past it now, I'm sure. Yeah, with that Tesla bump. Well, what we're looking for is basically we're looking for the buyers to really take control of an area and test up to an area where maybe there's either high liquidity or a lack of transactions up in this area here. And that's how it works with support and resistance. There's a lack of transactions up above this area here. So maybe it can make it up to the top of the range. And you would have to see maybe a reevaluation of the instrument at that time. And then to see more transactions here like we did in Tesla to lift it away from this area here. And typically the lift away from that area takes place on high volume. And that's why we outlined these kind of high volume dots in here as these two scenarios in here. And then there was all this back and forth in here. And we kind of just gave up and we said, yeah, okay, the nod is to the buyers here because we see them in here, but they're it's not really that positive. Like, I mean, the volume is there, but we've just seen a lot of back and forth in here. So yeah, we've almost made it up to the top of the range here at 58, okay, and still looking for it. In fact, okay, we still see more buyers in here. All right, so we went through that whole CVD thing. Good morning, Rob. How are you? CVD Kenji will work no problem in the Thinkorswim version. You should be able to mimic everything that we've got in here with the Thinkorswim version. Okay, you should be able to have delta dots as well and delta bars. Oh, Rob, you're looking for the settings on the older contract. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we can open it up. I had it open up earlier. Let's do this. And I'm not sure exactly where you're going with this, but it's Rob has a tip here to go through, and we're going to look at the ESM contract. Okay, and we'll just put in data. Is all right. So now what you wanted to look at here, I believe, was you wanted to if you inherit a chart setting. Yeah. So yeah, there's this nice feature in Bookmap. We put it into again the Learning Center, the Getting Started course here. You can scroll down in the saving configurations in here, inherit chart settings. So it's a minute and a half long that goes through it. But basically, you open up a new symbol, okay, and it can it's easier just to show it in the video. So you saving chart settings. Okay, there we go. Let's hide this. And yeah, you can basically you might have widely different. See how we have the kind of a dome column in here. We have different heat map, etc. Everything's been kind of changed around. What you can do is then inherit the chart settings from one to the other here. So we're looking at crude oil here. If you jump over to the NASDAQ, you can see it's very, very different, right? You got the columns are different, etc. And heat map settings are different, but you can inherit the chart. So go to chart settings, inherit, or you can save it actually and load it from the file, or you can go to inherit here and then choose the one that you want. Let's choose the, I'm almost, might as well just play it. And then see how now the NQ will look exactly like your crude oil here, right? So yeah, it's a great feature, and I think that's what you were going over, Rob. Okay, you got multiple questions on it. Okay, thanks, Rob. Yeah, just refer them to this getting this what we created this learning center for is the exactly this, and to answer your question. So you can just send them the link right to that. Bobby, your best decision today was to stay out of the choppy waters. Exactly. I mean, if you don't know and if you don't really see that edge, then just stay away. I know like FT71 does not trade, for example. I always mention that, but yeah, he just doesn't trade during rollover. He might be trading today. It's kind of rolled, but you'll see it here. The heat map will change later this afternoon when that volume rolls over. It's interesting to see. Boy, this is slightly bearish here. And guys, we haven't even looked at our bigger picture yet. So let's do that. I mean, I would say this is actually slightly bearish now, not so much due to the delta in the aggressors here. And the heat map, we're not getting much out of it. Maybe there's some down here at the figure, but it's just this kind of wild, varying liquidity in here right now. And that's why it doesn't help us, right? We're not getting too much of an edge. However, what we do have here, and let me just clear the drawings for a second, and we can dim the heat map. What we do have here in terms of structure is all of that buying, yet they're failing to move it higher here. Okay? In fact, they're moving it slightly lower. Okay, so wow, all right, well, if that's the case, then we're in the middle of the range right now and we're seeing sellers here. Well, maybe we can look for some pretty heavy selling right here right now, and if we do get that, it makes sense that we would get a move back down to the bottom of this range here, because the buyers cannot make a higher high, even though we see the buyers in here. Okay, they are failing to make that higher high. And just as I say that, we don't get our sellers here. We get buyers, in fact. Okay, so the buyers should, well, then make sense, just based off the range. Why can't they test up here if there's enough buying pressure? They should. They should be able to do that. It means that the sellers are not here. They're going to be up here, right? So this move can unfold if we get enough buyers. Okay, now we're just, again, we don't have the heat map on. We're not getting much out of it today, but we're looking for those buyers to take it here. Okay, or are we back? If we can rotate back in here, then I really like it. I really like it better as the scenario here. Then I'm still looking for those red dots here. And I like it even better because the bigger picture is we're still trending down for today. And the bigger picture is that this would be trap volume for these sellers to come in and move it back down. So we get our higher time frame alignment here, and then the move back down to the bottom of the range. Okay, and then probably if we can get that, we'll probably get a test to the figure, to be honest. And look at the back and forth in here. Right? We did not get our sellers down here, so that didn't entice us. Yeah, we brought up the contract specs earlier, Rob. Yeah, the September contracts. I mean, the open interest has rolled. It rolled on Friday or last week, but the volume has not. But it probably will really soon. One thing we covered on Friday was, we're talking about trader psychology, and we're talking about knowing an edge, and basically the trader psychology. I was just saying that I don't really. I believe there's a lot of hype around it that is just noise and hype. The question is, do you have an edge, and can you manage your trade? Now, the psychology in the trade management is really the key. So for example, let's suppose you got in here in a hypothetical situation here, scenario. If you got in here, okay, you see that buying come in, you're looking for that move just to the top of this range. Okay? You're just looking for that, right? So you'd look for that to unfold. Okay, what if it doesn't? That's where you have to go through these scenarios in here, or at least that's one of the vehicles that I use, and I find it very helpful. What if it doesn't? What would I do? Okay, I'm looking for a move up here. Okay, would I be all in, all out? Or would I take some off here, or none? If I saw a massive buying in here, then it's more likely not only to trade here, but break through. Okay, and then how does this mess with not only my mindset in here with the trader management? Okay, in this scenario, but what about the time of day, and what about the trading environment? Okay, the trading environment here is rollover, right? I'm taking my profit up here. Okay, maybe all. But I don't know. There's quite a bit of buying in here. Maybe we can get a break of it, and we can trade up to here. Okay, that in 60, 59, 60 that we're looking for earlier in here, that did not unfold. Right. Okay, so and why I'm covering this in here is it's just how I kind of look at it, and who cares how I look at it. What matters is to take away maybe something that helps, and clarity helps. Okay, based off of this being rollover period right now, then my decision would be to take the profit up there. It's only a small scalp of a move, and to take the profit, and that's it. Look for the next one. And if it did blast through here on high volume, I can't let it mess with my head. This was the decision I made, and yeah, who knows what might happen up here. Okay. Now, if you did not take your profit, let's go through that scenario. What are you doing now? Right, and this is where this is kind of what I mean about trader psychology. It just comes down to the trade management, and how does that mess with your head? Okay, so let's suppose you're in here. Okay, it's hitting you right now at your break-even point. I think what would happen? How would you feel? I think I would just take my stop loss at break-even. That's it. I'm out. Okay, I want a clear mind moving forward, and that would clear my mind. Okay, if I see buyers come in back up above here, I can always get back in. Okay, but what if I'm here and it's like, well, I don't want to take a loss. I saw these buyers, and we should be able. I'll get it on the next rotation. Well, you might not get that rotation. So let's suppose you're caught right now in a long, in this kind of hypothetical scenario here. So how do you handle that? Right? Do you put your stop down here and get stopped out right where everyone else is getting stopped out, or do you take your break even here and wait, or do you even see this in here and say I'm just going to reverse it completely, or are you adding into it? That's the worst. Okay, because the sellers might come in and just move this here, and all of a sudden you have a big loss on your hands. Okay, so avoid that one. But just go through the different scenarios in here. Okay, what if it happens? What if this scenario happens? What if that scenario happens? And then start to get into some of the details in here. Okay, this will make all the difference. And I think clarity of mind, and just kind of put it behind you and look for the next one is really, really important. Okay, so this will mess with your head back and forth a million times over. Okay, look, this is what we wanted it to do to begin with. right? And it's back up here now. And then do you revenge trade up here? And, you know, like I knew I was right. And then you get caught again. No, a way to look at this would be just to think this was one trade event and this is another one in here. Okay, Scott's really good at that. He'll just look at this is a separate trade event. Also, JTrader, excellent at that. And if it doesn't work out, cut the trade. Okay, now again, this is very low time frame stuff in here, but the scenarios will likely be very, very similar on the higher time frames. Okay, or what if you sold the breakdown here? Right? Are you going to let it go against you and stop you out up here? How are you going to handle it? Okay, if this is a trap volume in here, these sellers should be able to move it down to at least the bottom of this range pretty quickly. And they didn't. All right, so anyway, that's, I think, your reaction to your studied edge. And I have to say it that way because first you have to know if you have an edge or not. Secondly, how do you manage it? And I think starting early, be very aggressive with your management. Okay, it either works now or it doesn't. Type of management helped me a lot. And maybe it helps you. So, you know, you're looking for it to work, and if it doesn't, I'm not going to get caught up, and I look for the next one. Yeah, in here, I mean, you're likely going to see your stop run. I mean, you can even see that. You can see the other players in here doing exactly what we're talking about. Like these sellers in here. Here's our stop run here, up here, right? Well, these sellers in here are likely the buyers up in here. And now look at this, all these buyers in here as well. Look at the stop run here to the downside. Right, so a lot of people may be buying in here looking for the breakout, and a lot of them getting stopped out here. Right, so all of these buyers. Now we can match that up too with our CVP column here that has the delta check mark here, or the filter. Oh yeah, we're back at the U contract shadow. Yeah, no, the M contract's way over here, which is at 43.09 right now, and the U contract is at 43.50, 54. Yeah, I mean, that's why we go through these different scenarios in here, and we look at the where we can anticipate stop runs, etc. We know that we're looking for that trap volume. And I know there's a stop run. I don't know if it's these traders in here getting stopped out, but that's speculative. But I know it's a stop run, right? So definitely be assured of that. And how do you use even that information? Well, stops are typically, or stop losses at least, are typically retail traders. So we know their behavior. Okay, so we look after maybe they get stopped out in here. That maybe we can find sellers move it back into the middle of the range or bottom of the range. And then look at this behavior in here. Okay, see how we don't have really, we see some stops in here, not a whole lot though. So this is new selling in here. Okay, does that make sense? So this is new selling. Okay, and they're in control of this move from this point on so far. They would be out of control if buyers can come back up above 55.5. Okay, and then maybe they would get stopped out. And believe me, I mean, there are imbalance indicators and traders looking precisely at this, and algos programmed to look at this, and then to put the screws to you and get you to transact and shake you out of a trade, okay? Because it's an advantage for them, and it's a pretty simple thing to understand. That's where it can be all these conspiracy theories, etc. But just think about like how you larger players can get the smaller players to transact. Okay, like right now, we should anticipate a stop run here. Okay, back up to top of the range here. Okay, 57.25 or so. Okay, I see a stop run here. I don't see one though happening yet here. Okay, I'm looking for a nice one. Okay, back up to here. Okay, so let's just be clear on that, up to here. Now again, let's just zoom in here again, because what about these buyers in here? This is new buying, and I don't see a stop run yet. Okay, so maybe we won't get the stop run up here by these sellers. Maybe we'll get sellers below here in this scenario, and they'll remain in control, and we'll get our move into 50. Okay, that's the opposite scenario here. And then we look for one or other to unfold here. And at the moment, neither are. But identifying these areas in here of the buying and selling in here. All right, so let's see. Covered cumulative volume delta in detail. Yeah, understanding trader VIN, understanding the imbalances in here. I would just think of those, the shift and away from an area, and those that are kind of caught. Kind of caught with their pants down, or like there's like, oh God, now I'm really shaking in my boots. I know I can get squeezed here if I'm a seller in here, and I get buying back up above where I sold. Then these sellers in here will be compelled to buy. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about in imbalances. And we actually talked about the imbalance from this huge range in here earlier with cumulative volume delta, understanding imbalances, okay, in this whole range in here. Okay, on each leg. And I mentioned that Gene over in the Algo Boys room over on our Discord channel, it starts at 2:30 to 4 every day. You'll look at these kind of imbalances in here. All right, Shadow, I know you don't want me to look at the M contract, but I'm just kind of curious. What what this looks like compared to, do we really see the volume roll over yet? They both look pretty horrible, to be honest. Okay, we'll stick with the U contract. All right, let's, after all of this discussion here and looking for these imbalances and cumulative volume delta and these different scenarios and trade management, let's take a look here at our bigger picture. Okay, our bigger picture on the daily over here, it's an inside day. Okay, we talked about the bullishness of these charts, weekly and daily for a while. It's still bullish, okay, but it is an inside day here within all of Friday's price action. So yeah, we see it's still green here, but it can come back down into these lower areas here, no problem. This is the ES. Okay, so I'm not sure when rhythmic rolls. It looks like it's the so maybe this is what you're talking about, Shadow. But the rhythmic, this is at 43.12 here. Yeah, so it's probably looking at the M contract. It is. It's looking at the M contract. All right, so for that bigger picture. But that's what I have here. It's just said, remember, look, it says just ES here, CME. It's their, what do you call it? Their permanent symbol, right? It'll roll tomorrow. Pretty sure. All right, we'll just use the higher time frame charts for now. So just don't look at the price action, or I'm sorry, the price number here. Just look at the price action. Yeah, so this was what we had today, and this is classic, just classic. On an inside day, it gapped up, okay, but it's still inside all of Friday's price activity. So what did it do? Filled the gap. We actually saw that, the gap up on the daily and weekly chart, and we're wondering, I don't know about that. It was this, I think this day here, it gapped up, and we're like, yeah, I'm not looking for, I'm not seeing that continuation here. So I'm looking for the sellers to come back in and to retest some of these areas in here and fill the gap. Okay, so same thing happened here. Here's our, it even shows it better here on the 15-minute chart. 15-minute chart, here's the gap up. It opened up here, at least on the M contract, and it filled it. And then it's been bouncing around in here, and we're starting to see, maybe we're starting to see our shift and change here on these on this 15-minute chart. See, look at the wicks, look at the buyers starting to come in. All right, so I would actually look for this scenario here, look for a retest back up to the top of this recent range in here, and let's see if we get enough buyers, and maybe we can get a move up into the higher range here where it opened. Right, that would be one of the scenarios to look at here. Right, so let's see. Let's take a look here. Just a note before we do, look at the gap up here and the gap and go, and then it filled later on Friday, and then it came back in and chopped around in here. Right. So anyway, just note that on your gap fills, and let's see what we see here. All right. So are we starting to see that shift in that change here? Boy, I don't know. It's kind of a hard read right now. We've got a lot of high liquidity in here. You can see in this here on the offer, but the buyers are coming in. There's no question about that. Okay, so the next test would be here on the U contract, would be up here at 60. Okay, and then maybe we can get to highs of the day here at 63. Okay, and this is where CVD can be helpful. And just read this whole range in here and try to understand where the buying and selling imbalances are. I'm not really seeing much at all. Okay, we had our divergences earlier in here. We covered that in detail. Okay, what about now? Oh, yeah, I'm seeing a divergence for sure here. This is a swing here, and look at all this buying in here. And it's a lower high here. Typically, that divergence, you'd look for sellers to come in. I wouldn't look for that here. In fact, I really like all of this buying in here, buying up here. I would look for the scenario here, looking at CVD as well in this back and forth in this range, that maybe we can get sellers down here. If we see this abandoned, the buying kind of abandons it up here, and we come back down to about 55, let's call it, and we see sellers in here, and then that would be different, right? And then what we're kind of looking for in here won't unfold. We look for the sellers to come in and try to drive it back down into maybe not only 08, but I would say 07 and lows of the day. Yeah, yeah, we can make the bubble smaller in here. Problem. Just a note too, like guys, like it's in that learning center area I was telling you about before. But you know, I'm almost always showing in here during these webinars the all of the volume dots, but you can filter for them. Okay, so you can go through the video in here for volume dot filtering, volume dot clustering, in this learning center area here. So a lot of traders do that because they don't want to get kind of sidetracked by these smaller moves in here, and maybe they're not scalping, they're looking for kind of a higher time frame move. So what you can do is you can come up to your studies here, volume dots, and then there's a clustering feature here. Okay, that'll filter. Okay, you can see that it kind of works like it takes the volume that's around a kind of a sphere of influence and will kind of cluster it together, kind of like a water drop, and another little drop will become part of a bigger drop. But that's one way to look at it here. We can also take the clustering off, have it on none, or bring it all the way back down to 0 here. We can look at minimum displayed volume and also trade size. So minimum trade size, this would be your block trades if you start to filter for that. I don't really find this one too helpful for me, but some traders like it at their block trades in here. Minimum displayed volume I find better. And what this one does here is we'll take kind of the volume. Well, basically, you might have a block trade of like, let's say 100. Yeah, actually, this is looking pretty good now here. With this volume filtering, it looks pretty good that we're not going to get that move to the upside here that we're looking for. It's rejecting off of here on this 15-minute chart. Okay, so now I'm looking for those sellers again in here and try to bring it back down to these lower areas here. Okay, we have some pretty big volume dots in here. What this does here, this filter, play around with it. See if you get an edge, and maybe for your time frame, it's something that works better for you. Basically, saying within 1 pixel width here, 128 transactions took place. Okay, so it's based on your zoom level in that sense. So if I zoom out more, it's going to have to be even a smaller area, and it'll be tighter. If I zoom in, that condition may not be true and you won't see a volume dot anymore. So let's look at this one here. If I zoom in enough, see how it disappears? It's no longer 128 minimum that traded within this area, within 1 pixel. Okay, so very quick transactions. But I zoom out, I'm kind of compressing time together, so that condition will be more true. Okay, so anyway, The reason we have this filter here is because in the algorithmic environment, won't get as many block trades for, like, let's say 100. Instead, you'll see 100 lots trade very quickly, but they're one lot each. Okay, and that's how we're filtering for. Okay, so yeah, play around with that. Maybe you find that this is really helpful for you. Kind of all over the place, as you can see in here. I do like seeing this volume down here, though. Okay. But you can see that it's pulled away from that now. Right? So this might help with the volume imbalances, is what I'm saying. Okay, so yeah, play around with that. Might be something to take a look at. This would be a trap right now, and this has been trappy this whole range in here. Let's see, obsess, accumulate bubble sizes is more noticeable to see buyers versus sellers. Yeah, it's still in the delta mode here. Okay, so buy minus sell, but where this condition is true, 128 or more. Okay, it filters out the less. Candle trader, yeah, the rollover will change. Well, like I said, the behavior of traders is different during this period. They're doing different things, rolling from one contract to the next. So therefore, trying to understand the order flow and the heat map can be challenging, because we don't really know what, we know they're going from one contract to the next. Okay, we get a lot of chop during that period, typically, and it can be really kind of aggravating, and maybe it really diminishes your edge. Okay, because like we're saying, it's like, wow, sellers, some buying here, sellers here. Okay, all right, sellers, maybe you're going to take it down at this point. We get this scenario here, and then we didn't get it. Right? It looks pretty good in here. Should do it. Okay, and now, do we get buyers up here? No. So that doesn't look good either. In fact, if we do get our sellers back down here again, then I would look for the follow through back down to at least 53, maybe 50. Right, so I hope I answered your question on that. It's not your typical time to trade. The behavior, they're doing different things with the trading. I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't know if the analogy kind of works or not, but like, consider sales during Christmas or sales during the year. Christmas is a different time, right? So can you trust all the sales that you get like during Christmas? Yeah, you roll over. You have to exit the current month, and roll over to the next month. That's correct. Hey, look at that cluster of buying now, back up above, and look at that stop run. Hey, we're looking for that stop run over here, right here, right? We outlined it here. Now we're getting that huge stop run. Anyway, guys, yeah, pretty lackluster session here. But yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Hit that like button. We'll be here tomorrow, and we'll go through. Think of some things that you'd like me to cover, or maybe specific instruments as well. Happy to go through them with you guys. But you know, we'll go through our process here, looking at bigger picture, and then looking at the order flow within the day here, to give us some sort of you know, go through scenarios to give us some sort of edge in here. All right. Thank you all, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Bye-bye.